All right, good evening, everybody. It is 5:30, and this is our pre-agenda meeting for the town of Spencer for the month of February. And today is February the 9th, and we will begin with an invocation. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the warm weather. We thank you for the leadership within this town, and we thank you for our citizens and our businesses. Lord, be with us as we deliberate and as we set our agenda for next week. Be with us and guide us in our decisions and grant us wisdom and discernment. Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have a couple of orders of business tonight. The first one is to consider adopting a resolution directing the town clerk to investigate an annexation petition under General Statute 160A-31. Mr. Blunt, I'm going to invite you forward just to give a quick overview on that.
Mayor, members of the board, by the time we're finished, you will be experts in annexation. This is the second of several annexations coming your way. The very first step in the annexation process is when we receive a petition from the property owners asking to be annexed. Everything's voluntary nowadays. They have to ask to be annexed. This is a piece of property on the east side of I-85 along Willow Creek that is proposed to be an industrial / distribution center of something over 1 million square feet in built space. Again, the first step in that is for the clerk to certify that the petition is sufficient. So all you're doing tonight is asking her to investigate the petition and make sure it's sufficient. And then she will report back to you at your next meeting telling you whether it is or isn't. And then we'll start taking a few more steps. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions from the board at this point? We'll obviously hear more on Tuesday about this request, but Resolution 23-03 is to authorize the town clerk to investigate the petition so that we can develop the statement of sufficiency. All right, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So move.
The motion by Mr. Muhammad. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Sledge. All in favor? All right. Thank you. All opposed? And that is approved unanimously. All right. The next item, I'm going to invite Chief File forward. I believe we have some new hires with our police department that you want to introduce.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board.
Good evening.
Always a good thing to be able to come up before you for definitely positive news. So we do have 3 new hires that have joined us tonight. So I asked each one of them to stay this evening so that they can stand up, be recognized. You can put a face with their name. I'm gonna ask them if they'll stand up when I call you out. Casey Paget and Trent Puckett both come to us. They are our recent graduates of Stanley Community College. So they have begun their kind of informal training here while we're waiting on paperwork to come back from the state. They've also been assigned code enforcement duties, so I think we'll talk about that next week at the normal meeting, but you'll see they have been making a lot of headway on some of our code enforcement related issues. And then Detective Sergeant Tim Everett comes to us from the city of Salisbury. A ton of experience that he brings to us, so we're very happy to have him here with us. And I just want to take a minute to let you put a name and a face together, and hopefully they will be able to introduce themselves at a later time. If you definitely have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of them.
And I think we need to point out a North Rowan grad, right? A couple of them.
And our North Rowan coach, so we'll count
right.
that too. Baseball coach up here at the middle school.
All
so.
right.
Yeah. Perfect.
Did I see a second hand raise for North Carolina?
You did.
That's one of my students. Oh, okay. How does whole family?
He didn't claim that, though.
Well, no, he
You did.
What we need to know is what type of student he was. We should have done that on his background check.
They all were.
Well, we are thrilled to have you on board. Thanks for choosing Spencer, and welcome to the family.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item we're going to review our agenda, but Joe, do you want to come forward and give your updates before we move forward with setting the agenda? That work?
So do you want me to go ahead with the agenda item relative to the property transfer?
We can. That'd be good since we have a few
Okay,
folks
we have
here.
several folks here from the Yadkin Museum Historical Foundation, and if that's okay, I'll do that.
While I have you on the spot, though, I think we do need to recognize we've got a few folks here as we're talking about the Yadkin River and the Yadkin River Trailhead Park. You will all see this. And we can thank Joe and his dream team of folks that made that happen. This is a Central Carolina Regional Council Award. It's a Region of Excellence Award for the town of Spencer for improving quality of life, and it was awarded to us yesterday at the Central Carolina Regional Council Awards, and it is for our Yadkin River Park Trailhead. So many thanks, Joe, for all of your work. Ronnie, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. It is nice to receive recognition from the larger region on the work that's being done here in Spencer, and it's I think that the reputation that the town is garnering for progress and doing great things is really getting out there, and had several people come up to Alderman Sledge and I last night and say, hey, we hear about lots of stuff that's happening in Spencer, and so I think we're really getting the good news out there. I will add that I did offer to put that on as a hood ornament on Ronnie Smith's Mercedes, but his wife has his car tonight, so we'll try to do that next time. So Ronnie's been terrific in working with us on this, but anyhow, and more good news for us. I had mentioned previously to the board that the Yadkin Museum Historical Foundation was considering offering the property, the 2.82 acres, out on North Carolina Finishing Lane, the corner of Salisbury Avenue and North Carolina Finishing Lane, to the town of Spencer to be incorporated in the Yadkin River Trailhead project. Subsequently, we had a meeting with some representatives from that organization, and they have submitted a letter to the mayor that was included in the packet that you have tonight. And so we're just introducing this as an agenda item, of course, and perhaps the board will want to consider taking action on this next week or tonight, whatever the pleasure of the board might be. But the chief or the central theme of it is that the foundation is offering the property to the town. It has immense historical significance, and there are strands of history that are expressly enumerated in the Articles of Incorporation for the Museum Foundation related to Native Americans, Revolutionary War, Civil War, the finishing plant, and the village of Yadkin, and then Spanish exploration that took place in that area in the 16th century. And so the general idea is that the foundation would like to offer the property to the town with the understanding that it would be used for public access, and there would be opportunities through signage, memorials, other landscape activities, interpreting the history of the site. And I've been in town hall quite a bit today, and I have been doing research specifically on Nathaniel Green's crossing of the Yadkin River. And the site that this property is immensely important to the Revolutionary War. And so I think it's in the interest of the town to consider accepting the museum's offer. And the item is essentially asking the Board of Aldermen to consider authorizing the town manager and the town attorney to not negotiate the transfer of the property. I think there might be some title work, of course, and I would probably recommend that the town have the property surveyed. So that's the essence of that particular item. And there's, as I said, there's several members from the foundation here tonight.
Right. So any questions for Mr. Morris? I also do want to give Mr. Bishop an opportunity if you want to say anything to the board. You've been, your committee has been incredibly gracious and generous.
We are a 501c3 nonprofit, so we can't sell this property just to anybody. But we can give it to you to add to the Trailhead Park and turn into public property. And Joe covered pretty much what we'd like to see happen with it. If that were a no starter, then we'd probably try to find someone else who would do what we'd like to see done with it. But turn it into a park, use it to educate people about the significant history that this particular spot in North Carolina has. And it's not necessarily that particular 2.81 acres or whatever, but where the bridges are in that area, a whole lot of important things happened from Native Americans, Spanish people, and so forth. The wagon trail for settlement came down through here. And that's where everybody crossed in about a 5-mile stretch there. They all came and got across the river and went east to west. And as a 501c3, we can donate this to you. We can let you have it, and then you can do with it, hopefully, an amazing, wonderful thing and save history. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. All right. Any questions from the board at this point? Okay.
How quickly do we say yes?
Well, I think one option is you could add it to your consent agenda for next week, since we've heard the presentation and talked with the folks tonight. And that way they can go away feeling comfortable that we are moving forward with it.
I think we should move to do that.
Okay. All right. So when we get to that item, we will move that to the consent agenda. All right. Anything else, Joe?
I do have the other item relating to the resolution requesting creating outdoor recreation economies. This is a program that was made available by the North Carolina Department of Commerce, the Rural Economic Development Division. Essentially, this is a technical assistance program where the Department of Commerce would provide personnel to assist the town with some collaborative planning efforts and promoting tourism and recreation-based economic development. There are not any funds affiliated with this necessarily, but I think that this could be an opportunity for the town to assess the recreation facilities that we have, outdoor recreation facilities that we have in the community and that we aim to improve through trail networks, public access like this park that we've talked about tonight, working with other communities that are nearby locally and regionally. And that, as I said, that this is at no cost to the town. I do believe that eventually there will be a grant opportunity that says, did you do the core program? Check. And we'll have that in our favor as we proceed with the developing recreational economy. I should point out that it also has a component that has to do with actual businesses that are functioning in outdoor recreational economies, and that would be outfitters, fabricators, people who were building trail gear or recreation equipment and that sort of thing, and it actually analyzes opportunities for that kind of participation as well. So that particular item will be asking the Mayor and Board of Aldermen to consider adopting a resolution requesting core program services and authorizing the Mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with the North Carolina Department of Commerce Rural Economic Development Division. So there is a resolution and a memorandum of understanding.
Thank you. Any questions for Joe on that item?
Joe, this is, what I read is like a 2-year study or a 2-year plan or something?
There will be a timeline that's created. What we have done is had preliminary engagement with the Department of Commerce to talk about what the study would be composed of. And there would also be public input sessions, meeting with other agencies in our county and region. I think we're further ahead. Maybe that's not a fair assessment. I think we're pretty far along in terms of identifying the kinds of things that we're trying to accomplish. And so it might be streamlined. It could be less than 2 years. But I think the program services actually can be extended over a 2-year period if need be.
Okay.
And I think the key is, and maybe you mentioned this, but it's a pilot program.
Right.
This is the first time that they've done it, and they've selected the town of Spencer to be part of that. They came to us, essentially.
We were one of 34 communities that were selected across the state, and we submitted basically a questionnaire that posed some of the key elements of what we're trying to accomplish here in the town. And so it was announced last week, I think, that we were made eligible. So this is a process, incremental step that the Department of Commerce would require for us to participate in the program. It's just sort of formalizing the agreement to proceed.
And I think the important thing to note here, the key with this initiative, the focus is really on developing the economy
Right.
around the recreational piece. And so it's going to look at our existing infrastructure and things that we have for recreation, as well as our plans and what we're moving forward with, as well as things like the Transportation Museum, and basically how we can capitalize on attracting businesses that really focus on outdoor recreation to build that economy and fill some of our storefronts here in town.
And
One thing too, Joe, you may want to get Rusty Miller involved in the early
Absolutely.
stage, because I've always felt like, you know, we've got a jewel in the 8th Street ballpark, and it's underutilized. And I know that there are organizations out there looking for fields as the numbers drop in terms of ball fields being constructed. It would be a great opportunity if we could get some unique or offer it as a out of season or off season facility for any kind of ball game.
That's an excellent suggestion. I'll be sure to contact Mr. Miller.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, Mr. Morris. All right, Mr. Franzese, before we move into review of our agenda for Tuesday, anything else that we need to consider, any other presentations tonight?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. So moving ahead, as we get to our agenda for next week, is there a volunteer to give the invocation on Tuesday?
I will.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. All right. So as we go through, again, keep in mind items we want to add to the consent agenda. The approval of minutes is an item we typically add to the consent agenda. Ms. Sledge has had an opportunity to review those and done a thorough job, as she always does. So thank you for doing that. And so is it the pleasure of the board to add that to the consent agenda?
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
All right, hearing general agreement on that, we will move that to consent. All right, and as we go through tonight, if there are any additions or deletions to the agenda, let me know, and then of course we'll have an opportunity for additional additions or deletions on Tuesday night. Recognitions. Do we have any recognitions that we would like to make as a board or as staff?
I do.
Yes.
No, I always do. Second quarter students, I'll recognize them. I'll send the names up here to Tammy so she can add it to the agenda.
Okay.
And I think we ought to recognize Devon Hargrave after he's on the winning Super Bowl team. We can either do it this month or do it next
We'll know
month.
more on Tuesday, won't we?
Yeah.
Very good. Any other recognitions?
I don't know if it's a recognition or not, but and I left the paperwork on the dash of my car. The mill site,
Yes.
North Rowan Lunch Club
Yes.
is working to build their base to continue to be able to provide more. And I have actually some copies of menus and a newsletter that I can get and bring in here to leave it.
Okay. I think that'd be fine to make that as a recognition, just an acknowledgement that that service is available to our residents now. Anything else? Okay. Very good. All right, we'll then have public comment. We'll then have approval of the consent agenda. And then we will be holding a public hearing. If you recall, we did budget in this year some funding as part of our ARPA funding to move forward with purchasing a new fire truck as well as a new garbage truck. And of course, as you know, both of those are desperately needed. Our recent garbage truck issue over the holidays definitely proved that to us. So we are pursuing or intending to pursue a United States Department of Agriculture, USDA rural development financing for both of those. And so we must hold a public hearing for that. So we will have that. We will then receive the certificate of sufficiency from the town clerk for the proposed annexation on Willow Creek Drive that we just discussed earlier. And then we will receive a presentation from Mr. Blunt on the details of that proposed annexation request. And then we will also have to adopt a resolution to set a public hearing date. The next item will be to receive a presentation on proposed growth boundary agreements. This all plays into some of the annexation conversation and future development and growth. And so if you recall, it's been, I guess, a couple months ago now, at the request of Rowan County, we sat down with the county as well as all the other municipalities in the area and began a process of working to figure out how we can collaborate to kind of define future growth areas and boundaries as the different municipalities and as the county develops into the future. And so we'll receive a presentation on the conversations that have been held to date with the town of East Spencer and the city of Salisbury, and the general agreements that staff have reached regarding that, and be able to present that to us for some additional information. And then the next item would be to consider authorizing the town manager and town attorney to negotiate and accept the donation of the property from the at the Yadkin River that we heard about earlier. And as we mentioned, adding that to the consent agenda. Is everybody comfortable with that this evening? Okay. So that'll be on the consent agenda. The next item will be to consider adopting a resolution requesting creating outdoor recreational economies, or the CORE program, and then executing that memorandum of understanding with the Department of Commerce. And that's what we heard from Mr. Morris. I would also, Mr. Morris will not be here on Tuesday, so I would recommend, based on his presentation tonight, that we move that to the consent agenda as well. Is the board agreeable?
Yes.
Okay. Sure. The next item is a property lien for nuisance abatement at 1108 North Salisbury Avenue. As is typical, each month we have to approve these property liens so that they get filed accordingly with the courts, and so I would, with the Rowan County, and so I would recommend that we also add this to the consent agenda. Okay. All right, everybody seems to be in agreement with that. And then the next item will be to consider amending the Town of Spencer Personnel Policy and Procedure Manual, Articles 4 and 5, and then subsequently after that, considering approving a change to the classification and compensation system for some various classifications within our police department. And so I would recommend, obviously, that those be regular agenda items. Okay. We'll then receive our departmental reports. And I would ask, is there anything from board members that is not in the departmental reports in your agenda packet that you would like to hear from staff so that they have time to prepare between now and Tuesday?
I think we need to offer Mr. Sweat Rag.
He's been busy lately, for sure. Okay, hearing none, we'll then receive the town manager report, then requests and comments from the mayor and board, and executive session if needed. Is there anything else that needs to be added to the agenda? All right. Hearing none, I believe our agenda then is set. Is there any need this evening to go into executive session?
Yes, briefly.
And the purpose?
Discussion of the Park Plaza area or our parking lot, and a couple of potential things that went on there during winter fest. I think that needs to be discussed.
I don't know that we have a specific state statute that applies to that.
Okay, but then I can say that we'll have this little powwow after.
Or if we chat, then you and I, we can figure out if there
Okay,
is a
fine.
state statute for Tuesday night.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anything else? All right, we've reached the end of the agenda for tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned. I'll
Okay.
second it.
Motion by Mr. Miller, second by Mr. Morgan. All in favor? All right, all opposed? All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Better, right?